So I was listening to the new Mormon Stories podcast episode on Nahom. Great watch. And I had a thought while watching it, and that is that apologists often completely change the Book of Mormon in their attempts to defend it. And one of these examples is with the story of the departure from Jerusalem and the journey in the wilderness. So as described in the Book of Mormon, Nephi and his family, Ishmael and their family, so they travel south from Jerusalem, and this is, of course, after Nephi and his family literally gave up all the wealth they had. And you have to question how much wealth Ishmael and his family hypothetically could have brought in that type of journey. But anyway, so they're journeying south. You know, they're eating raw meat. They're not lighting fires. They're trying to keep as low of a profile as possible. And eventually, you know, they reach some bountiful land, and they're enjoying the bounty of that land and whatnot. And eventually they reach the coast and they build a ship and whatnot. And there's not a single mention of other people. Not a single mention. And in fact, the implication is they're trying to avoid people. You know, what with the whole not lighting fires and, you know, eating raw meat. So what the apologists do is, in their desperation to make Nahom this extremely credible evidence, they twist the narrative. You know, they place them, you know, like over 100 miles east from the coast, even though they're supposed to be by the borders of the the Red Sea. And they also add in this completely previously unadded narrative element where there's these trade routes, these caravaneers, these Arabians, South Arabians, and the narrative is completely changed. You know, Nephi and the whole group apparently meet up with these caravaneers, even though they're trying to avoid people. They travel along with them. And this is somehow, even though they're implied to have like basically nothing and be basically homeless nomads at this point, who are just like doing basic subsistence living, somehow they can travel along with these caravaneers. And apparently they get so ingratiated with the South Arabians that Ishmael is buried in the place that they bury, you know, their people, you know, the Nim tribe or whatever. And apparently, and again, there's also the issue of like language. Like apparently, like these Arabians met these Hebrews that they wouldn't have shared the same language with, and let them tag along even though they, you know, have nothing. And they buried their patriarch as if he was one of their people. And like, you know, the plausibility of this story aside, like this is completely absent in the Book of Mormon. There's nothing indicating this. It's a total apologist fabrication, and it's totally unnecessary because the Book of Mormon being true doesn't require Nahom to be legitimate.